Alright, today I'm going to be doing a review on Path of Exile 2 so far. This is not a definitive edition of the game. This is an unfinished project so far. So keep in mind that anything that I say regarding, for example, the lack of functionality in the game, it will be patched in later, and I'll talk about that as it comes into play. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'd like to talk about the campaign first. The campaign is fucking amazing. Compared to Path of Exile 1, where you would basically just get a Quicksilver Flask at level 4 from Nessa, blast through, pretty much until Mervale, blast through, pretty much until the Val Oversoul, and then once you get to Sarn, you're in Act 3, difficulty gets a little harder, and then boom, Dominus absolutely dick slaps you. And it's like, oh, damn. Okay. This is kind of hard. And then you get to Act 4, and so on and so forth, right? You just get as much move speed as possible, and you just go, 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 go. This game is a lot different. I do not like the lack of any movement speed, except on boots, as it is quite expensive. Well, I probably shouldn't bring the absolutely fucked economy into it, but I'm going to anyways. It is very expensive to buy boots with good resistances, good either... Well, I'm using Energy Shield personally, so yes, it is expensive, because it's meta. But let's go back and talk about the campaign. Act by act. In Act 1, you wait. The character creation, I love it. Everyone else's neck snap, you fall down, and then you're like, oh, shit, whoop. Fucking Mario jump off the wall behind the gallows, and somehow your ropes don't, you don't drown, and somehow they just magically disappear, and you wake up on the riverbank. From there, you go to the Miller, and the Miller is a very good example of a tutorial boss. Does an overhead slam, and it's very telegraphed, very noticeable when it happens. Clearfell, having plus 10 to cold res, and then in Act 2 plus 10, you get a total of 20 to all resists just from killing optional bosses or interacting with a little statue thing. Personally, I think that's a really good campaign improvement, as it doesn't force players to interact with the game world. However, it is a very good incentive. Can guarantee you that Buyer of the Rotten Pack here has an almost 100% kill rate for any player that knows about the 10 cold res. As probably so do the other two. Have a 90 to 100% kill rate. Well, I say that. However, Blackjaw is quite hard for someone who does not know the mechanics, so they may get pissed and not do it. But moving on from that, the Red Veil, pretty good. Going through the cemetery, I quite liked the little lore exposition from Lachlan, and the fucking demented old man going, my family, and then trying to kill you. So you bully the old man, and then you move on to the hunting grounds. Kind of uneventful. You get to defeat a big-ass bird, and then it's the farmlands and the village. I really liked the executioner fight. I thought it was really fun, and he wasn't too difficult, but he has big AoE swings and slams. They're easy to move away from if you dodge correctly, and it's quite a fun fight. After that, however, the difficulty ramps up so unbelievably fucking, like, from Clearfell, here's my camera. So, from Clearfell, you have this, right, and you slowly build up the difficulty, and then it just shoots skyward. the moment that you get to the mana ramparts, and I'll explain why. It's not just that the damage is crazy or that the health goes way too high. There are multiple different mechanics, all pitted against the player at the same time that they've never had to fight before. For example, blood pools in the Ogam Manor and the Mana Ramparts. These blood pools deal physical damage over time that unless you're scaling your armor, you are completely fucked. And as a mage and a mercenary, I got screwed so many times. It is probably the biggest source of my deaths as an early player within the first month. You also have the enemies with large shields that block your attacks and getting close to hit you. You have the enemies being detonated and leaving blood pools. You've got multiple different kinds of enemies all swarming you at once. And the enemies get faster and can attack while moving, some of them. I'm talking about the Iron Guards. The ones with a pike that just go swing, swing as they're lunging at you. Now, for an experienced player, you dodge forward and they miss. But for an unexperienced player, you dodge backwards and you still get hit. All these things combined mean that the Mana Ramparts are a huge difficulty spike, and I'm hoping that they scale back, one, the damage of the blood pools, because good lord. And that's pretty much it. I would say that this is just a cautionary tale that, hey, the Mana Ramparts are extremely hard compared to the rest of the game so far. Once you get past that, you have to deal with Count Geonor, the Mad Wolf of Ogam. His fight it's fun. However, I am not a fan of his invulnerability phase, much like I am not a fan of any boss's invulnerability phase, with the ability to deal damage. My biggest critique of this phase, I think it's cool, and I like how it's implemented, but I don't like the ads in the fight. Ads in a boss fight are meant to give you... they're meant to give you a chance to either leech, recover flask charges, or to just otherwise get resources back that you didn't have before the invulnerability phase happened. So in that interlude, you gain resources, such as charges or health, that you can use against the boss. The main issue is that these ads, one, explode on death, meaning that you can't use their corpses for anything meaningful, and I think you can, not later, but within a 1 second, I think it's half a second to a second, if you want to use Profane Ritual, for example, to gain a power charge, you have to do that the second they die. Otherwise, they explode, dealing damage. They'll still explode dealing damage, but you'll be able to get a charge off it. My next critique is their health. The wolves that the Mad Wolf spawns are... they're difficult. And as a melee player, they body block you, slow you down, or push you around, and Count Geonor is sweeping across the screen. And that's just not fun. Right, to have to worry about just getting away from these things, and then they'll stuff you into a corner, and, well, to do what Jamal does to people in prison. Right, it's not exactly fun. But if you get past that, I'm going to be honest, I rage quit the first time I did it, and had to come back the next day. So, Act 2. I also particularly dislike the first boss, Wrathbreaker. It's an interesting introduction, the Vistiri Outskirts. I like it, but I don't like the boss fight, for reasons I'll get into after. Having enemies that are resistant to lightning, and these little jumpy boys that'll inflict bleeding. The bleeding isn't bad in itself, it's mildly an annoyance. The fight with Wrathbreaker, though, holy shit, it is hard. It is incredibly hard. His arena is, well, let's just say unfair. It's small, tight, and compact. So, basically, just small and cramped. There are enemies firing javelins off of the cliffs above, which are untargetable. If you are too close to the cliffs, they not only fire a barrage of javelins during the boss's rush attack, but they also target the player directly, dealing massive physical damage. I think in order to, in my opinion, improve the fight and to give players that are using health and not energy shield a fighting chance, I'll be honest, I was using health mostly on my sorceress character the first time I made one. I actually had to switch to Ghost Writhe and convert 50% of my health to energy shield just to be able to kill this guy. His overhand slams deal massive damage. He's able to turn on a dime. If you aren't able to roll right as he slams, he'll do an attack that goes 1, 2, and then he'll slam. But he can move as he's targeting. So, you need to be very skilled. Well, I wouldn't say skilled, but you need to be fast. And if you get hit by that, it's almost game over for every scenario. He's doable. He's just very difficult, and I'd like to see 2 changes that would make the fight a lot more entertaining instead of frustrating. One is the reduction of damage to the spears directly targeting the player when too close to the cliffs from the untargetable enemies on the cliffs at the back of the arena, and a possible, it's not the end of the world, not like the direct damage, but it would be nice to have the damage scaled back on his overhand slam so that it doesn't feel... Maybe the boss version in maps remains unchanged, because at that point you should have either physical damage reduction or know what you're doing. But for Act 2, I really would like to see the damage scaled down a bit to give the character a fighting chance if you get hit by it. Moving on to the 3 areas... Oh no, you have to do the quarry, and then you go to the gates. Or, well, you do one or the other. I really like the quarry. I think it's cool. The story in Act 2 is actually very well done, and it gives you a lot of lore into who the Faradin are, the Marraketh and their values, and the areas within the plains of Vestiri that you just don't get to see in PoE 1. So they have expanded on the lore quite a bit, and I really like it. The boss fight in the mine is alright. I think it's really annoying having to dodge roll constantly when she starts swinging wildly and hits you to take... It's almost an insta-kill. Almost, or... Yeah, it takes off most, if not all, of your health. But I think it's fine. She is an interesting fight. Moving on to the next 3 areas, you will be able to access Keth, Mastodon Badlands, and the Valley of the Titans. Me personally, I've optimized the strat to go to Keth first. There is Kabbalah the Constrictor Queen, giving you 2 weapon set points there for an easy power-up. You level as you go through this, gain 2 passive points, then you go to the Lost City, the Buried Shrines, fight the boss with mommy issues, then you move on to the Mastodon Badlands. You'll also get a clan relic for later in this area. You'll get a clan relic in this area for later. You fight Ekbab, Ancient Steed, and, what's his name? The Death Lord. So you go through the Badlands, the Bone Pits, grab the relic, kill the boss, and you're done. The boss is a duo, and if you kill one of them without killing the other, good lord have mercy on your soul. He ramps up so hard. He gets kind of angry if you kill his master, and his master gets a little angry if you kill the big bag of bones. So he'll just start casting shit all over the screen, and you don't want that. You don't want that at all. I think there was a Cuphead boss like it, but that's a different story. Then you go to the Valley of the Titans, where you put the 2 relics that you found in the previous areas to get. You can get a bonus. I do like the bonus. I think it's cool. I think it is very interesting. Oh, what's this? A weird craft. That actually looks kind of cool, my dude. I'm not gonna lie. Physical and cold damage, plus some dex and int. Yeah, it's not bad. You go to the Titan Grotto. You fight Zalmarath the Colossus. I particularly like his fight and his arena because it's incredibly buggy. My friends and I, in the group chat we have for this game, have multiple screenshots of it just bugging out. and his laser attack staying on the screen, doing the bzzz thing, playing the sound, and being able to boost your character very far up. It is immersion breaking, but at the point I was at when I found it, it's not very immersion breaking. But it can be, if you just boost yourself up and are able to zoom in, and then you see nothingness, because the game isn't rendered that far. Well, I think it's funny. The Ardura Caravan is a very interesting town. It's a town on wheels, powered by slaves. I will critique, however, just the simple fact of... See the slaves here? They have hooks into their backs. They have their hands tied up in chains. And I'm going to be real with you, this is fucking retarded. It would be so much more effective to just chain them together instead of having them painfully slog forward. I mean, come on, man. It would be so much simpler if they weren't in constant pain and could actually pull with their full might. Could you imagine how little you'd need? And also, there's only 80 slaves. You know what? I would do a trust me, bro, but I'm just going to go through, and I'm going to look. I'm going to show you guys how many there are. You can count for yourself. Bam. Probably 80. Where am I going? Oh, yes, right. Back to the hideout. I almost fucking pressed the logout button. Deshar, after you go... oh, yes, I forgot something. Right. Where is Balbala the Traitor? Where the hell is it? Oh, yes, Traitor's Passage. Which one is it? Yeah. Having the trial of the Sekhemas be gated behind the NPC that will guide you through the trials. Oh, buddy DC'd. Or maybe he's logging out. I think he DC'd. Having it be gated behind a boss that allows you access to it, I think is a very interesting and bold move, but it's appreciated. Do I like doing the Sanctum mechanic for my Ascendancy? Fuck no, but that is something that I'll get into later. You go to Deshar. It is a slog to basically find the dead woman, go up the spires. Path of Mourning is not actually needed, it's just travel time. And then you go from Torgal to the Vanguard. Well, not the Vanguard, but the Dreadnought. To fight Jamin-Ra. Quite an interesting fight. He basically just goes, pff, boom, slices that shit. Yikes. It's a fun fight. It is incredibly hard if you don't know the moves, but it's fun. Moving on to Act 3. I don't have too many complaints or quips about Act 3. The Venom Crypts and the previous area, the Jungle Ruins, really make it abundantly clear that you are going to need poison resist for this act. What the hell are you making that's mewing, Master? Stat stacking? Oh my... Alright. This guy. Moving on to the Infested Barrens. My pro strat here is to find the waypoint that goes... It's right beside the Midland Waterways. And then you find the Azak Bog, get the waypoint, then go to the Chimeral Wetlands, get the waypoint. Then you move on to the Azak Bog. I love the layout, the lore. I love Survey's exposition on the areas. I didn't really listen to it more than twice, but it was nice. It was welcome. You could ask her for local knowledge on anything that wasn't underwater for 300 years, and she'd probably know what the hell it is. Of course, she'd know about the Jungle Ruins, the Venom Crypts, the Marsh, Actually, I'm not sure if she has anything in the marsh, but she definitely has something on all the areas above the water. She won't tell you anything about here because, well, her people haven't been, they didn't witness the fall of the Vol Empire and the flooding of Utzal. I do find it a very, very strange decision to make your city in a giant crater. I mean, that just seems odd. And then to have it where the waterways could flood the entire city. Like, what the fuck? What? Dude, as soon as I saw these go up, if I was living here, that's... Nah, fuck this. I'm going to another Vol city. This is crazy. What are you guys doing? That or I'd make a home, up here. But they didn't do that. Now, moving on. You go down here. Oh, actually, I should first talk about Chiquani's Sanctum. So, you'll fight the Chimera to get into the Machinarium. Then you go into... Oh, no, it is in the Machinarium, isn't it? Yes. You fight Blackjaw. Now, Blackjaw is a pain in my ass. He's not anymore, simply because I know his attacks, and I'm able to dodge them. He uses a version of Rolling Slam that he is able to turn while he attacks, and if his first hit stuns you, he's going to kill you with the second. Also, getting close to him and having his overhand slam hit you is almost a guaranteed death if you're playing a a non-melee character with not a bunch of tankiness. His damage is incredibly high, and I would prefer if it was much lower. I say much, but I'm gonna say like 20 to 25% reduction in the ground slam. But he's doing it, but it's still probably gonna hit you because the AoE is that big. Either scale back the AoE or make the damage much lower, and I do believe that would solve the issue of him being an extremely hard fight for the level that you'll be at. Zikawatl, Warden of the Core. That's a pretty fun fight. I particularly enjoyed that one, with lightning being the main damage the boss will deal. Lightning or physical, with the little Vol emblem that he does. I say a little, but it's fucking huge. Pakwadi's mechanism, I think this is interesting. It allows the player to not spend a Vol orb, but still be able to corrupt something with this one-use mechanism. I like it. I think that's a very good campaign addition, much like the 10 to fire resist that you'll find from Blackjaw. Now, gating 10% fire resist against a guy that will dick you sideways for that fire resist. Oof. Bold move. I like it. You get access to Ultimatum right after you get into this area. You'll find the entrance in the Chimera Wetlands. I think it's a pretty good place. I think it's fun. I also think it's incredibly time-consuming on the top end if you're trying to optimize it for speed. And I also think that gating your ascendancy points behind fucking gambling was a terrible idea. I am personally not a fan of having complete random chance for which modifiers I'm going to access be the determining factor of if I'm going to ascend or if I should just take my rewards and leave. I don't like that. I would rather it be like the Labyrinth in Path of Exile 1, where you go through the same shit. You go through it, you don't know what's going to be the next room, or you could use the PoE Lab website and know what's going to happen. That's what I do. But, it's a labyrinth. You find your way to the end of it, you just don't die. Right? But it's not random. It's not random chance how difficult it's going to be for the power that you attain. And for some classes, yeah, it's worth the power. The power is worth the cost. But for some, especially Titan, right off rip, it's just not. I say Titan because I haven't played Warbringer, but I know how it is. Then you go on to fight a bunch of inbreds and drowned people. That was weird. Then you go to the apex of filth, and you fight a very fat woman who threatens to use you to breed more things, which was fucking terrifying. Yeah, that I was like disgusted and terrified in the first time fighting her. That was crazy. The Throne of Filth or something like that. A legacy of incest and vulgarity. The Molten Vault. I am not a fan of doing the Molten Vault. I like DPS tests, okay? I love having to optimize my build for pure damage to get past an obstacle. That was what Blight was in PoE 1. Now, for PoE 2, I guess it's the Molten Vault, because this motherfucker will just start, you have a certain amount of time, or his Molten Gold flow will kill you, if you can't kill him fast enough. Minion builds, terrible against this guy. He'll go back into the Molten Gold, and your minions will just follow him, the melee anyway, and they'll just die. They'll just get melted and die over and over again. So he's not possible to beat unless you can find a way around it. And if you get the Hammer of Kamasa, you get... what do you get? You get the Reforge Bench. I really like the Reforge Bench. I think it's a wonderful addition to the game. But I don't like it being gated behind a DPS test that is incredibly hard to beat the Mark IV first try. Might just be a skill issue for me, but that's how I see it. I don't know if there's anything I need to elaborate on in Act 1 Cruel. There's just new monsters, new stuff to do. Well, no new stuff to do, but there is new monsters, and everything's a little harder, obviously. Oh yes, I forgot to mention that in Act 1, you go to the Freythorn, and you get 30 spirit from fighting the King in the Mists after 3 rituals. I like that they introduced ritual to you early. I wish that there was some other way to implement it into the core game, so that you did it maybe once. Never mind, you do it twice, because you do it once here, and then you do it once in Cruel. But you don't have to do it once in Cruel, because you don't get the 30 spirit. You will get spirit from the Ignakduk, and you will get it from her again in Act 3 Cruel. One thing that particularly pisses me off about this boss fight is her, I'm gonna ride around on a fucking broomstick, and melee characters can't touch me. Mind you, I'm playing Spark, so this character just goes bzzz, and the whole arena, she'll constantly get hit because it's a giant circle. So it's easy. But for a character that is not able to line up a shot and hit her when she's on the broomstick, shit out of luck. It kind of sucks. Her attacks are extremely damaging, and she is incredibly evasive on the broomstick. So, good luck. Moving on to Act 2. What the... Oh. Act 2 Cruel. There's not really anything noticeable. Act 3 Cruel. You fight Ignakduk. You get your spirit. And then you go and fight... Oh, yes, right. I completely forgot to mention that in Act 3, once you go to the city of Exile, it has been dialed back so hard. The monster density, coupled with the spamming of a skill that will freeze you, meant that you almost certainly had to get, if you were a big energy shield user, you would want to get a passive on the tree called Icebreaker. 100% of max energy shield at its freeze threshold, and you wanted to be unaffected by chill during dodge roll. These were absolutely necessary for Exile. You could take them off afterwards if you want, but you needed them to get through the city. The boss for the city is... she's insane. Huge both DPS and survivability check. If you get hit by chaos damage by her, humongous. I would say that maybe the big... she does a circle attack. And in the... say this is the circle. This is super big. Don't take this as... like, take about a third of this. Right, this is the biggest circle that she'll summon. She summons these... oh, actually, you know what? This is perfect. So this little waypoint thing, the, not... you know what? Forget the blue thing. This, the lit up part, this is her fire attack. She'll raise up into the sky doing an invulnerability attack, and then she'll summon a bunch of these. These are... what are they? How do I explain this properly? This is the fire attack, and then she'll do one the size of the entire waypoint, a ton of them, that are chaos. The chaos ones deal double damage to energy shield, as chaos does, and holy shit, do they deal a lot of damage. Not a fun boss fight. Very, very, very hard. It's definite skill check. Moving on to mapping. Mapping has gotten better. It used to be a pain in the ass to do towers, but now it's actually quite fun, because there are multiple different kinds, and the enemies are not constantly spamming you with Eye of Winter, so freeze locking. The Realm Gate is what you'll use for any content that isn't Expedition logbooks or regular mapping. The Reliquary Vault, I do believe those are, if you find vault keys, those will be interesting. There is the Moment of Zen, which is particularly interesting because it gives you the Wandering Trader, which is actually the Nameless Seer. What the fuck is going on here? Honestly, I think I hit the sea limit. What? Okay, disregarding that, the improvements to map bosses and how many of them there are was particularly good, as I like bossing. I think the bosses are the strongest part of Path of Exile 2 compared to Path of Exile 1, where instead of being a skill check, well, no, they are a skill check. Instead of, can you DPS hard enough, or can you just do a War of Attrition? A change that they did in this... Now, I'm going to get technical here. Instead of looking at the broader picture for campaign, I absolutely love what they've done with mana. Particularly because you can scale it so much better, and Mind Over Matter is build defining. You can take 100% of damage from mana before life, and you can convert some skills cost into life. So you have 1, then shield, then life, so 1, 2, 3. And you can have guard from your life flask, so you can have 4 layers of health before the enemy kills you. I think this is a change, is very nice. Having absolutely no movement speed on the tree. I mean, where is it? 3% movement speed. Oh, yeah, okay. Your minions can get 20, but what do you get? 3% from this huge point investment. Huh. That's interesting. Oh, look. 1% movement speed for each time you've blocked in 10 seconds. 4% movement speed if you've cast a mark skill. 6% movement speed with an active charm. 3% movement speed. 2% movement speed. 3% movement speed. So the only character with any access to some good fucking movement speed is probably the Ranger. Where you have some here, a couple more here. Maybe you take these, probably not, because they're situational. And what is this? 3%. Huge point investments for 3%. What the hell is the point? 3% when you have energy shield. 3% movement speed. 4% movement speed. I mean, come on. They completely neutered having any speed, forcing players to get it on boots. The issue is that, let me see here. So, if I want 35 movement speed boots, probably not much. Okay, now let's say you want probably like 150 energy shield, right? Just No, I think a better one is probably resists. So if you have 35 of this, and then you have 40 to 2 resists, you're looking at 20, 60, 80. It gets expensive. Now, if you add rarity into the equation, it gets exponentially more expensive. I will check my boots here. That's another thing I'd like to speak about. Rarity is good. I think it's in a great state. I would like to see quantity added in some capacity. Although I think it is added. So, actually, you know what? I'll get into reviewing these afterwards. But I think quantity of items found in maps is a thing. So, increased attributes. You find 7% here. You can find 6% intelligence here. You can scale. There is tech that you can scale with attributes on the tree, and I think that's cool. Cooldown is something that is rather annoying, as you get a shitload of access to it as a mercenary, because you get grenades. So stuff like this. Where is it? Cooldown. Cooldown reduction, more cooldown reduction here. Cooldown recovery rate. Now this one's obviously for melee, but whatever. Yeah, this is specifically for grenades. Cooldown recovery rate, and there's a lot of it. What do you get when you what do you get when you play these? Nothing. Oh, you might get this if you're going here. What do you get for this? Oh, you get Warcry cooldown reduction. What do you get? Oh, minions have 20%. Oh, that's super cool. Great. So what do I get? One node way up here with 40% reduced skill effect duration for 10% cooldown. An interesting trade-off. Really sucks. And there's not much gear that you can... I don't even think there's gear with cooldown recovery. So it forces you to go way, way, way down the tree, or just not even bother. So, Gemling OP, I guess. Another thing is the mechanics. I know I've left a lot out, and I probably won't talk about everything, because there's a lot that I don't remember to cover. This is just an offhand, impromptu recording that I thought I would do because I really enjoy this game and thought I knew enough to review it. One small critique about the Relic Locker is that when you go into it, it doesn't open. When you go into it in the Trial of Sekhemas, it does open. So, I'm nitpicking for that one. MTX not being available when it's come out semi-recently is one thing, although I'm a whale, what can I say? That's, you know, first world problems of the first world problems. Expedition is in a great place, but I really dislike having Rog for certain equipment, Tujin for certain equipment, Gwenin for certain equipment, and they all do Rog crafting. I would have really liked Tujin to have been the bargainer, and Gwenin have a new role, because they took the Gwenin gambling mechanic that, me personally, I never used it. I fucking hated it. I thought it was absolute garbage, because 99 times out of 100 you get nothing useful. Maybe a corrupted rare that was worth 3 divs once every, 300 pulls. And if not, you got screwed. So I think it's cool that they got Rog crafting still, and Danig fulfills his role as the guy that opens expedition logbooks and gives you all of the other people's stuff. Alva as the currency exchange, I love this. I am muted, so I have 1,114 days. I said something stupid multiple times, and they just went, alright, well, 32,000 hours. Now, this was over the course of a couple of years. I'll deal with it. I don't give a shit. except that it doesn't allow me to be active on the trade site. So I can still use the currency exchange, and I can also still whisper people. That's something that was a huge improvement from the mute system effect in PoE 1. I can't whisper people to trade. I have to use an alternate account to do so. But then again, first world problems of first world problems. Right. So Doriani being the respec guy, I think is pretty cool. I think just having Doriani in the game, listen, I'm a fucking fanboy of this game. Oh my god, getting to talk to this guy specifically in the flesh instead of just seeing his name written everywhere, from flavor text on items to lore exposition by characters to just environmental lore, depicting this guy as some master thaumaturge. I love being able to see this guy in person. His exposition is quite nice. His boss fight is crazy, but fun. The well system, I think it's interesting. Not just being able to pour it out and pour it back in for easy flasks. You actually need to use the well, and it'll refill your charms. And this brings me to my next point. Charms are fucking useless. If I need the Chaos Res now, I don't need it when I already get one shot. I need it now. That's why flasks were so good. Now, all I get is a health and a mana flask, and I don't use health because sucks. Right? And, you know, mana just, it's not that good when you have like 3,800. Mechanically, I think the game's in an alright place. I think that the Warrior's slam skills, I think Warrior sucks absolute dog dick for a good half the campaign, and then he really ramps up and becomes an absolute beast in Cruel, and then in Endgame, oh man, that guy rocks. Right, people, I used to shit on Warrior. I did. I actively hated on Warrior for a long time. Shout out to Tim Hortons coffee. This shit slaps. Even when it's cold. Mind you, I got an extra large triple, so that's a lot of cream and a lot of sugar. Still sweet. Sweet, but cold. It's good. I feel like Warrior is in an okay place, but you do have to follow a build guide closely to be able to replicate any sort of damage. Stormweaver, absolutely overpowered. The abilities of this class cannot be understated. Exposure you inflict lowers the resistance by an additional 20%. That is base 20% negative. You can scale that with exposure effect, which is insane. That alone, that's real nice. Targets can be affected by 2 of your chills, and all hits can chill. I think this is interesting. I don't see many people utilizing it because it kind of falls flat. Because why would you need to chill the enemy? Unless, I suppose it has its uses. If there is a weapon or a piece of equipment that, like Ahuana's Bite from PoE 1, where enemies take increased damage based on your based on chill magnitude or chill effect. I think that's cool. But most people are doing, you just have Arcane Surge, and then you can scale Arcane Surge per mana, and then you get 2 shocks. 2 shocks is crazy, because you get you can get 98% increased damage taken. 98 times 2 is nearly triple your damage. What? That's crazy shit. 40% LE damage taken recouped as energy shield. I think that one's pretty nice. I think it's decent. I'm not going to do a review of the other ones, as this is my best class. Actually, one thing I will say is Demon Form. I'll speak about that. Demon Form is incredibly cool as a build-defining mechanic. Being able to turn into a demon and decreasing, a linearly accelerating, percentage-based maximum health drain that can be counteracted by base regeneration, of which is shit. I'll say that now. Leech is infinitely better than any form of life regen available in the game. Simple as. It is trash. And I think either Demon Form needs to be reworked, because it would be overpowered if they massively increased the life regen. And you know what? I do think that. I think Demon Form needs to be redone with its 0.5% per stack. And I think that base health regeneration needs to skyrocket, because it's terrible right now. You can do base mono regen and do Mind Over Matter, and it functions like having super high health regen. You can do energy shield, and you can have, on your weapon swap, tons of recovery rate, tons of faster start, and it'll come back within a second or two, instead of just 12% per second. But with health, you just don't see that kind of support, and it's really disheartening, because I want to make a really tanky character, but I have to scale up my health, and then I have to use Leech, because otherwise, I'm just not going to get anything. I'm not going to get anywhere. Recoup is another mechanic I'd like to talk about, and it is now over 8 seconds. Chronomancer is over 4 seconds, reduced to 3 with Pliable Flesh. I think it's cool, but oh boy, 8 seconds, really? I'm using Midnight Braid myself as an Archmage. For 50% of the damage taken is recouped as mana. I think that's great. You can also get it on your amulet, and you can get 20% here. I think you can get it, 6% here. And, yeah. So you can get about 90%. That's not bad. Over 8 seconds, all of the damage that you take, almost all of it anyway, I mean, that's pretty good. But if you're not scaling it, what the hell? It's useless. I think spells are in a much better place than attacks, as it always is. I mean, the gun beats the sword, simply because I can kill you before you can hit me with the sword. It is what it is. That's why Knights of the Round Table is now a bunch of people sitting in chairs, calling shots around the world. And then, well, you get what I mean. We have evolved. And even if it is a fantasy game, it still goes by real-world logic that you can't hit me. I can kill you before you can hit me. Oh yes, one last critique that I have is having to go to my stash, take out a certain number of artifacts in a stack of 20, and then take these, and then go over to this guy. I am definitely not a fan of having to do that, and would much appreciate... I think it discourages me from using it if it's that tedious. Right, and I know some of you watching are probably thinking, dude, it's not that hard. What are you bitching about? It increases the friction between quickly utilizing a mechanic and getting back to mapping. Reducing the friction as much as possible so that it runs smoothly, it enhances the player experience. Needless friction like this reduces my willingness to interact with it, and it makes it so that I just don't interact with it, because it takes up too much of my time to take things out, go here, craft, put them back. I don't want to do that. I just want to go here, craft, put it in my stash, and sell it. So I think that adding 1, a stash, and 2, possibly making Tujin do something. I don't think they will, and I'm happy if they keep it this way. But at the very least, telling players... Do they tell you? No, they don't. I think it'd be nice if they tell you what each of the Expedition NPCs specializes in. So, Tujin... What does Tujin do? Yeah, Tujin is jewelry. This guy is, I think, just this. And Gwennen's weapons. Okay, so never mind. It's just me being retarded. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you have to meet them all. That about wraps it. Oh, one more thing. The economy is busted. Holy crap. A buddy of mine here. Yo, Big, you still with us?
Oh man.
Hey, yo. Yeah, he's been listening the entire time to me just ramble off bullshit. So, let's let him have a bit of a talk here. My guy, what is it like? What is the trade experience like flipping currency?
Uh, I guess tedious at best.
This is fair. I did...
It.
Hmm?
I don't know what's going on. It it constantly feels like some random dude puts up a minimal amount to try to boost up the prices.
Oh, so just price fixing.
Uh, Maybe, but I don't know why you would want it boosted. You would want it to technically be lower.
Well, it depends on what you have more stock in, right?
Well,
It
yeah,
is... It is in a strange state. Something I will say as a pro tip for this game is the currency exchange has differing rates than the trade site. If you want to buy something on the currency exchange, a lot of things aren't getting sold on the trade site for anything other than regals, alchemies, chaos, exalts, and divines. That's about it. Oh, and mirrors, but that's obvious because those get sold for divines or thousands upon thousands of exalts, and at that point you're getting scammed because you should sell it for divines. But other than that, you can take pretty much anything. You can see if it's on the exchange, or you can make a listing, and then you can buy it and flip it, and you put it in your stash. Always check, another tip before I end this. You always, if I want to buy chances with exalts, never look at I have. Always look at, if I have chances, how many do I want? This is going to determine how much you should sell your exalts for to get chances. Never do it the other way around, or you may be losing a lot of money.
I'd also say spend about a day trying to figure out the average price because it's been flickering quite a lot.
Biggie here brings up an excellent point of gain market knowledge before you enter the market blindly. Thank you for that. I actually didn't even think to touch on that.
But when I look at all the trade sites every 2 hours.
This guy is my currency trader. As I am muted, I actually ask this guy to put everything up for sale, and I've converted my quad tabs into just, oh hey, does it have quality? Dump it in here. Hey, is it rares? Oh, speaking of. And then I do dump tab in the guild stash. Speaking of, there's new stuff. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna price check those. One thing I'll touch on is, I don't know if I've talked about this. I think I have with Ultimatum, but Sanctum and Ultimatum are absolute dog shit for gaining my 4th Ascendancy point. Having to fight a Chronomancer, or having to fight the Trial Master. The Trial Master himself is actually a very fun fight. It's pretty fair. He does have some very strong attacks, and I am not going to show them to you because I am not doing a 10 wave for 20 minutes just to showcase a boss. Because I will nuke his ass.
Artifacts,
Oh my gosh. You know what? We can do the fight. I'm just not recording it because it's going to take 20 minutes. I do enjoy Sanctum.
I don't rely on Trial Master either, since the one of the...
Oh, the fragments are incredibly
pieces
expensive. And farming them's a
one of them
bitch. All of them are?
Yeah. No, one of them.
Oh, right. Isn't it Victoria's Fate?
It's the left one. I think it's called Deadly Fate.
Oh, right. Yes.
So that one goes about 45. The rest are about 10 to 12, depending on
10 to 12.
time of day.
I mean, honestly, the average player is not going to be able to do 10 waves and, still have room for more. Right, they've eaten their fill and are probably thinking, you know what, I'll take my rewards and go. because most of the time the soul cores are pretty decent. You can sell those in order to get the fragments. But like my buddy here said, it's very expensive for one of them. And if you fail, you have to do the entire thing again and buy frags or farm another 3. And you're not guaranteed to get 3 that you want. On the other hand, Trial of Sekhemas, I love it. I love it. I am a rarity stacker myself.
It took me 12 trial or 12 runs to get that left piece.
So it is very much...
It's hard to get. I've
so
only found a total of 4 out of like 30, 40 runs. I cannot
so one of them, it's not an even spread. See, I don't like that either. If it's gated, if my ascendancy is gated behind RNG, it should be an even spread for all 3 frags. That's my opinion. Then again, the amount of uniques from him on the market would drastically increase, thus decreasing their value. But honestly, that's probably a good thing. What else is there? Yes, the Trial of the Sekhemas. I have 300% rarity, personally. No, 267% item rarity. So, I just get as many rares as possible, doing Chalice and Hourglass rooms, constantly sparking the room, and it'll drop me a ton of stuff. One thing that I really appreciate is the ability to gain honor through picking up keys and the ability to scale key drops. So, you can always have honor. That makes it so much fun. I can just have fun, stress-free, not worry about getting hit, because I know that one of these dudes is going to drop me something cool. I'm not a fan of a roguelike mode, where there is a permanent health loss, unless I can recover it in some way, gating a power level. That I'm not a fan of, especially not a 4th floor. The rewards from Sanctum, though, crazy. If you look up a Temporalis and any builds on it, like Empyrean's Temporalis, I think he did Spark, and it was with the Choir of the Storm. This thing is crazy. They also made it so it's greater lightning bolt instead of lightning bolt, and it does 3.5 times more damage. Huge buff. Love that. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for now. Oh, one more thing. The ability to salvage things and then turn them into things that I can have and use for money instead of having to collect a bunch of items and then turn them into a vendor for a scrap. I love that. And being able to disenchant unique items at Ketsuli, or really any of the vendors in town, I love that. Because when I get enough uniques, when you get uniques in PoE1, you think, oh, well, I already have this one, so unless it's god rolled and I can corrupt it, it's worthless. It's always going to be worth the profit floor is always going to be a chance shard. 10 uniques, boom. Chance at gambling. And you know me, baby, I love gambling. Right, getting a sapphire ring and this guy. And trying to get a dream fragments, or every heavy belt, I try to get a head honor. Oh, by the way, pro tip, if you get a stellar amulet, fucking sell it. Just sell it. Sell it. Don't gamble it. It's worth about 60 to 70 exalts if you bulk sell. Always sell these things. Your chances of getting Astromentus...
70 on trade site. Discords, you can get higher.
70... It's not 70 on the trade site. You can get them for 20, 30, 40.
I sold it for... I sold the white one for 70. I was actually getting multiple offers for 70.
Holy crap. You should try this one for 80, because I found another one. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of Game Review by your boy DJ. Hope you guys have a great day. And thanks for sticking around for an hour. If you like this kind of content, do comment. I would really appreciate knowing what people want me to review, if anything. But that's going to do it for today. See you later, boys.